Good morning, everyone. Your morning weather briefing for this Thursday, May 10th, finds that there are no major changes in the forecast versus what I presented yesterday. It is looking to be an active and wet pattern for the Corn Belt for the next 2 weeks. Very difficult to find any days in that period in which some rain will not be falling somewhere in the region, and that should equate to eventual significant or even locally heavy totals. It's not a wet forecast for the Mid-South, with a lot of that area seeing almost nothing at all through at least Tuesday. Nothing big or widespread in the hardwood winter wheat belt for rainfall through the weekend, but are still looking at increased rainfall chances in the hard red belt starting on Monday through the end of the 2 week forecast. Still a lot of heat in the hard red belt for the next 10 days as well. Lots of 90s and a few spots above 100 degrees for the near term period. Minimal rains for a lot of the northern plains, a lot of that area dry for the next week, but they will be seeing an increase in rainfall chances for the week 2 portion of the forecast. Temperature and rainfall maps this morning, no real big differences versus what I presented yesterday. Do certainly want to note, though, that we are going to be looking at substantial amounts of abnormal heat in the near term for the southern plains, southern portions of the Corn Belt, northern portions of the Mid-South, with much above normal temperatures there for the next 5 days. For places like Missouri into Kansas, the hard red winter wheat belt, lots of 90-plus degree highs for that period. As far as rainfall is concerned, you can see that, again, overall an active weather pattern for a big portion of the nation's midsection outside of the Mid-South for the next 2 weeks. QPF discussion this morning, no major disagreements with what is shown. I can't rule out a little bit of rain that is shown on the map for the Corn Belt falling on any day during the next 5 day period. Cool and dry air, though, is going to be seen in the northern plains, and that is the reason for virtually no rain in that period for especially northern eastern portion of North Dakota and into northern Minnesota. Can't rule out rain on any day in this period for the hard red winter wheat belt, although the bulk of the rain shown there will be falling for Sunday and then especially into Monday, and a dry 5 day period for the Mid-South. In the day 6 to 7 day time frame, looks like rains are going to be shifting a little bit further southeast in the Corn Belt, and we have additional rainfall chances in that period for the hard red belt as well. Would not be surprised at all to see rainfall amounts in general in those areas be possibly a little bit bigger than this map is shown. Still limited rainfall for a lot of this period in the Mid-South and in the northern plains. Rains will be picking up in this period in the southeastern U.S. as some tropical moisture starts to flood into that area. High temperatures yesterday, very warm day yesterday for especially southeastern portions of the Corn Belt into central and southern portions of the southern plains. Temperatures there running 10 to as much as 20 degrees above normal. Once again yesterday, fairly extensive area of 90-plus degree highs in the hardwood winter wheat belt. Note some rather chilly conditions yesterday across eastern portion of Minnesota and into Wisconsin. Certainly a sign of things to come for those areas. 18-hour rainfall totals through 1 o'clock this morning. Our most recent weather system is finishing up in the Corn Belt this morning, and we did see substantial amounts of rain yesterday, especially across Wisconsin, but some more minor amounts across a decent portion of the eastern Corn Belt as well. Radar is pretty quiet on the Corn Belt this morning, but we are going to be seeing things change before too long. This is a look at the estimation of what the radar should look like by one of the high-resolution short-range models by around 1 o'clock this afternoon, and you can see that by that time rainfall is expected to be moving back into the northwestern Corn Belt, and this rain will be the start of, again, a period of very active weather in the Corn Belt, a time frame when it's going to be very difficult to pick out very long periods of completely dry weather in the region. A look at the GFS model by 7 o'clock tomorrow morning shows fairly dynamic situation with low pressure in western Kansas and our dry line extending southwestward from there. A very strong warm front located east-west across the region, dividing line between some sharply cooler air to the north and still very warm or even hot air to the south, and it is the battleground between those two air masses where the model is, of course, suggesting all of the rain to fall. It's just going to be the start of it, though. A trough of low pressure located in western portions of the nation. This is as of 7 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday. It's going to be producing various disturbances moving eastward from the main trough of low pressure, and that is going to be giving us our rainfall chances into at least the middle to latter portion of next week, though. You can see that another trough of low pressure is going to be quickly following the front one once it moves out, and there is a look at that trough of low pressure as we get in towards early portions of the 11 to 15 day time frame from the various models. So again, the bottom line, once we start to see some rain moving back into the northwestern Corn Belt this afternoon, very difficult for the next 10 days or even 2 weeks to pick out any long lasting periods of completely dry weather in the Corn Belt region. And with that being the case, obviously we are going to be seeing some fairly substantial rainfall amounts. Models in general indicating widespread 2 to 4 inch rains over the next 2 weeks across the bulk of the Corn Belt region. I'm not saying that everyone is indeed going to be seeing 2 to 4 inches of rainfall during that time frame. After all, it is a thunderstorm situation, and in situations like that, just via bad luck or via circumstances, there are going to be areas that get shortchanged. Bottom line, though, is that the pattern is very wet, very active. Anyone has a chance at 2 to 4 inch rains for the next 2 weeks, and it would not be surprising at all to see some areas see substantially even more than that. For the hard red winter wheat belt, again, the forecast changed wetter there a couple of days ago, and it continues to be looking just as wet for today. Not a situation where we're going to be seeing any one system bring that area a solid rainfall threat on any one day, but just numerous chances for rainfall getting started there as early as Sunday and Monday. Numerous chances then for the 6 to 10 and 11 to 15 day period should eventually equate to a lot of that area seeing some decent rainfall over the course of the next 2 weeks. Been talking all week long about a big temperature contrast setting up in the Corn Belt for the end of this week, a key ingredient why we are going to be seeing substantial rainfall in that time frame, and that temperature contrast certainly in place on the weather maps this morning. This is a look at the European models high temperature forecast as of tomorrow. You can see the 40s for highs expected tomorrow in a good portion of Wisconsin, while not far to the south there. Look at the 80s and 90s just to the south of those 40-degree high temperatures across a lot of Kansas, Missouri, and even central portion of Illinois and far southern Iowa. The biggest part of the heat still looking to be indicated in the southern plains. High temperatures there, 95 plus. Should be some places there above 100 tomorrow. The temperature contrast not quite as severe for Saturday, but still notice a lot of 60s or even 50s across northern portions of the Corn Belt, while just to the south of there, more 80s, 90s in the southern Corn Belt, and still some 100-plus degree temperatures on Saturday in the southern plains. At the opening, I mentioned that we are looking at a lot of much above normal temperatures in the southern plains, and even for southern portions of the Corn Belt and into the northern portions of the Mid-South. This is looking at European high temperatures as of Monday. The temperature contrast is largely gone by that time, as highs have recovered to the 70s to around 80 in the northern Corn Belt. But notice that even on Monday, extensive area of highs in the 80s and well into the 90s across a good portion of the southern plains and even into the southern Corn Belt. So pretty easy to see why I went for such a big area of much above normal temperatures in that area for the 1 to 5 day time frame. Longer term, temperature contrast could still be a factor in producing rains as we get into the 11 to 15 day time frame. This is a look at the day 12 temperature anomaly forecast from the various models, and you can see that there is good agreement among the models right now about some chilly air at that time in northwestern portions of the Corn Belt and into the northern plains, and dividing that from still some very warm air in southeastern portions of the nation. So a lot of temperature contrast going to be responsible for rainfall in the near term, and we could be seeing another temperature contrast setting up for at least early portions of the 11 to 15 day period to also enhance rainfall chances at that time. Internationally, maybe one of the wetter forecasts we've had for some time in Brazilian Safrina areas, but it's not overly wet. Obviously, still one can see that a lot of the Safrina areas looking at below normal rainfall for the next 2 weeks, and that is especially a dry forecast for eastern Mato Grosso, Goiás, nearby areas of Bahia and Minas Gerais. To the south of there, though, eventually going to be seeing some rainfall. Very nice totals eventually going to be seen in Mato Grosso do Sul and into Paraná. A little bit of that rain could be falling tomorrow, but have to emphasize, though, that the bulk of that better rains for Paraná and Mato Grosso do Sul could be still as much as a week off from starting. Their best rains probably late in the 6 to 10 day period and into the early 11 to 15 day time frame. Note that all of the rainfall shown in Argentina largely for the next 24 hours before that area really starts to dry out. Forecast has been trending wetter as of late for winter wheat areas of Europe and into the former Soviet Union, and that is still the case this morning. 10-day rainfall totals from the European model showing fairly extensive half to inch and a half rainfall amounts across the next 10 days across a big portion of Europe and into Ukraine and nearby areas of Russia. In Australia, finally for this morning, do note that we did see some rains as expected during the last 24 hours for some of the winter wheat areas of Victoria, and we will be seeing a little bit more rainfall both today and tomorrow in Victoria and into portions of New South Wales. Nothing big, just some additional quarter to 3/4 inch rainfall amounts. That's about it though as far as the 2 week rainfall forecast is concerned. Even that area drying up for Saturday and beyond, and you can see that for the rest of the Australian wheat areas, strictly below normal rainfall across all of that area for the next 2 weeks. That's what I have for this morning. Everyone have themselves a great day.